Hey, everybody out there in Cryptid Land. Thanks for joining me and my buddy Dirty tonight. We're going to have Barb Shupe on, and we're going to be talking about the Cloaking Bigfoot. It's a really cool video that she took out in the woods, and it's kind of weird, but predator-like, and I love it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some fairies, some orbs, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So join us tonight on the Cryptid Quest podcast. Hey, everybody out there in Cryptid Land. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a very special guest with us, Miss Barb Shupe. And boy, oh boy, she's got some good stuff to share. Let's welcome Barb to the platform. How you doing, Barb?
Good. How are you?
I'm not doing bad at all. So you're big thing. I know you from like your Bigfoot stuff. I know you kind of dabble in a little bit of other stuff too. But what really got you started being interested in the big guy?
Well, when I was a kid, my folks took us camping up at Mount St. Helens before it erupted, and that was where I first heard the story of Ape Canyon, and I was fascinated. And after that, I read everything I could get my hands on, which back in the 70s and 80s wasn't a whole lot, and watched every TV program that came out. And yeah, it turned out I wound up living in a place where there are Sasquatches. So yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah. So, and then you get a lot of activity on your property where you live. Is that where you first started having like concrete, I would say, evidence like footprints and sightings and things?
Yeah. The property where I first had my experiences was up on Forest Service land. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
my personal property, but I'm down to my cabin. And I think the first time that I had an experience was the very first time I took a hike up the trail behind my cabin. And I was hiking with a friend, and I saw a couple of broken treetops laying in the road, and it got my attention because they were fresh and there was no reason for them to be there. And so I started looking around, seeing what caused this, thinking, did some animal climb up there and chew them, or how did this happen? And so in the process of trying to figure out how these broken treetops came down, I discovered a perfect giant footprint on the back side of them in the woods. And that was probably my first real experience. But I knew so little back then that anything short of a full sighting or a perfect footprint, and I probably wouldn't have been aware of what I was looking at. But
Yeah.
that really started it for me. Yeah.
So, and do you remember, I'm sure you remember, about how big the footprint was?
The heel wasn't visible because the foot had slid down a little bank and pushed all the dirt down under the toes that the
Oh,
impression
okay.
was made in. So the
Hmm.
toes were, I put my foot over it, and, it was that wide. My foot was that wide. And
Holy cow.
there was probably 10 inches of it was visible without the heel on it. So it was big.
Yeah, that
Way
I would
bigger than
say,
a human.
yeah, I would say that counts.
I
And
think so. Well, the
and
guy that I was
go.
hiking with, he looked at it and said he would deny it if I ever told anybody. So he was a little
Oh,
shocked
really?
too.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that drives me crazy when people don't want to talk about what they've seen. But I mean, I guess I kind of get it because you get a lot of ridicule. Have you faced ridicule in the beginning or now?
Um, I have, but it doesn't bother me. It's like, it's those people that are ridiculing me are somewhere else. Their
Yeah,
brains aren't where my brain is, and I can't relate to them my experiences. So it doesn't bother me, it just
yeah.
okay.
I I, I got you. So, and I saw a video online that was really awesome that you took. You and some of your friends were hiking through the woods, if I remember correctly, and you just stopped, not even trying to film anything, and you noticed a break in a tree, and as you guys were discussing it, you picked up what looked to me like the predator moving through the forest. So did you
Yeah.
guys notice that at all when you took that, or is that something you just found later when you were going through the film?
Well, I knew that enough things were going on in the woods that I had started carrying a camera that was on and recording on the end of my walking stick. So I wasn't actually intentionally making a video. It was more of a just in case something happens. I wasn't actively aiming it or pointing it at anything. And we were just about 50 feet off the main trail looking at a broken tree. And the lady, Claudia, was standing kind of in front of me off to the side. And I noticed she kept looking into the trees ahead of us. And so while we're looking at this broken tree in front of us, I'm kind of looking to see what she's looking at. And I'm not seeing anything. And she keeps looking back. And I'm wondering, what is it that's getting her attention? And then I saw this little black uh, domed head on a creature with no neck, just triangular shape. It just popped up and took off running. And so I saw that with my own eyes. And I'm pretty sure that's where Claudia was looking. So what was happening there beforehand, she was seeing. But after it took off running, you know, we went back and out to the main trail and other people were waiting for us there. And I thought maybe they had seen it. Nobody had, but they had a little dog with them that had looked that way and barked, and then after that they did see another, what was described as a little black monkey, came down a tree and disappeared into the bushes that was directly across from them, which would have been behind the individual that I saw pop up. And then it wasn't until we went back to camp later that afternoon that I checked the footage on my camera, 'cause I knew I was recording and I knew it was aimed in that direction, but I didn't know if I caught anything or not. And so I'm looking at it on my little iPod camera and I see this little blur where there should be a little triangular shaped black dome headed creature popping up, but I couldn't see what I saw, just this blur. But it was so small, I couldn't really make it out. We put it on a bigger computer screen. And at that point, I realized this is like something from the Predator movie, and
Yeah.
except my iPod can't do that. You know,
Yeah,
this is like
yeah,
Hollywood
yeah.
stuff. This
Uh-huh.
wasn't even a new iPod. This was an iPod 4. So it wasn't even a good one. But yeah, so it was after we got back to camp that we discovered that was on there. And then we went ahead and put it on a big screen TV, or a big screen. And that's when we really got a close look at it. And yeah, I was just blown away. I had heard of things like cloaking and I had experienced it, but I was in denial up until that point. I had
Oh,
been rationalized my previous experiences, and that kind of just put me over the edge where I was no longer able to deny what was going on.
yeah. Actually, that was going to be my next question. I was going to ask if before this, if you'd ever given it much consideration, that because I know a lot of people talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
it's that about seeing it, and some people have claimed to film it, and I think you actually did. Um, and in the video I saw online, I'm not sure if it was you or somebody else that was talking about it, but they even outlined it and said maybe a baby was on its back. Have you
Yeah.
seen that
I think
video?
that Yeah, I think that was my friend Sam did that one.
Okay.
She was the one to come up with the idea that there were actually more than one individual making up the cloaker. And it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible. I can't say for a fact what, if it was one or if it was two or not, but I know that I saw one individual pop up. We found two trackways leading away from that area. So I know there was at least two individuals that were there when it happened, plus the baby that was farther back in the trees. So there was definitely more than one when it happened. And
So
yeah.
when you're talking about the baby, now I think it was the same video. There was a black spot, and it looked like it was. I think it was sitting in front of a stump, and it looked like it was moving something. Is that what you guys thought might have been a baby?
I don't know. Um,
Okay.
the
Oh,
the one that was seen, they actually saw that. That was right across the trail from them. That was farther back in the
oh,
woods
okay.
from. So yeah, that part wasn't caught on camera,
Okay.
unless it was part of
Oh,
the clip, which yeah, we can't really define it. So
yeah.
could be in there.
So
Could be another one.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the video, yeah, the one I watched, they showed the cloak and the cloaked individual and what possibly might be something on it, and it did actually look like it could have been. And then there was also another darker figure that they pulled in on, and it was the only thing in the moves wood in the woods moving, and it looked like it was just moving something back and forth. I don't know what it was. It was just it was interesting, but I didn't know
Yeah.
if you remembered that part or not. But
No, I know Thunker did an analysis on it, and he found trees in the background that had been pushed over. I think
oh
that was
wow,
the second individual that had gone straight back, because his trackway began in that cluster of trees, and the one footprint in the middle of them was 4 inches deep into the ground. So it really showed the amount of pressure that he put on those trees when he kicked off of them.
yeah,
So that's what was captured bending over backwards. And
yeah,
yeah,
oh
there's just so much going on in that video, but it's in the
yeah,
background, and it's really hard to get any kind of definition out of it.
yeah, yeah. But it's I'm got to say thanks for having the foresight to have a camera on your walking stick to catch it. I mean, if more people would do things like that, we'd probably have a lot more evidence. Just because most of the times it's like a split second, and you don't even have
Yeah,
time to get out a phone or a camera and try to film. You have to
yeah.
be right there
Well,
doing it
and
at the moment.
if you do try, well, then you're losing that experience, because your focus is
Yeah,
no longer on what's happening in front of you. It's trying to get your gadget going and
yeah,
working. So you're losing that whole moment. That's something that's priceless, that'll be with you forever. After the Cloaker event, for a long time, I stopped recording in the woods because I didn't want it to interfere with having a firsthand experience. And I was more than happy to turn the camera on afterwards and tell the story, show the tracks and talk
hmm
about it, if as long as it didn't interfere with actually having that experience. But then it turned out that a lot of the times that I was turning the camera on to tell about it afterwards, they were still putting themselves in the video. So now I go ahead, I'll announce it. I'll go up in the woods, and if I just kind of get a feeling like I should turn the camera on, well, I will. I'll turn it on and I'll announce I'm recording, and I'll just carry it. And it seems that when there's something they want me to have, then they make use of that time. So I don't know if you know it or not, but there was a second cloaker that was captured just about a year and a half ago, 100 feet from the same place.
the
This
one
one,
with the
he flashed
eyes.
his eye. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one
It's
too. Go ahead. I
something.
didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. So I was recording at 60 frames per second, and the eyes were basically just a glint. It was captured in 5 frames, 5 of 60 frames in 1 second. And in those 5 frames, you can see not only the eyes, you can see the eyes behind the glow, but then as he's turning his head in the third frame, you can see the outline of his cloaked head. Right there, you can see the stuff behind it, but it's definitely there. And then in the
hmm
very last frame, before he looks away, there's just like the one big eyeball looking at you.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's,
and it just kind
and
of disappears. That's
yep,
man,
yep.
that's wow. I mean, so do you have any theories on they can how they can do that? Um, I mean, it's an
Well,
amazing feat.
I do have some ideas. Ron Moorhead has really, I think, covered a lot of the bases as far as vibration with using quantum physics, vibration, energy. But there's got to be some kind of a mechanism, a catalyst, something that takes it from here physical to there where they're going. And I think that part of that has to do with the trees. I think the little ones, hold on to sticks and trees, small trees and things. And I don't know whether it's they're tapping into the energy through that or they're just using it to like push off of. Because I've seen them a lot of times, the younger ones, when you're having an experience with them, one of the first things they'll do is they'll grab hold of a small tree and it'll vibrate very intensely, and then they're not there anymore. And there's a lot of experiences with sticks that suddenly there's a stick stuck in the ground that there wasn't before. Now, I've had experiences where they have thrown things at me that appeared out of nowhere. I've had a stick thrown at me that vanished before it hit me.
Oh,
And
wow.
having discussions with people like Arla and people who know about these things, when they're cloaked and they hold on to something, then that what they're holding on to is also cloaked. And I think a lot of these sticks that we're finding stuck in the ground is from the young ones learning how to cloak. I think that they have that, whether it's like a security blanket, like a pacifier type thing to comfort them, that they've just got it in their hand. But when you try to pound a stick into the ground, you can't, it'll break it. But if you put
Mm-hmm.
pressure on it, hold it on the ground and just vibrate it, move it just a little bit, it will drill itself into the ground. So if you have a little Sasquatch who's got a stick and he's using that as his tool to learn how to cloak, he's putting his vibrations into it, and then poof, he's gone, but there he walks away, and now you have a stick driven into the ground. So I think that there's just too much that's connecting these things, between the vibrating trees and the sticks being driven in. I think that's part of how they learn to cloak, is through that vibration and energy. But I don't know whether or not they're just using it as something physical to hold on to push off of,
Mm-hmm.
or whether they're actually absorbing the energy of the earth and the trees out by connecting that way. So
Yeah,
that's
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 that super. Well, I mean, that's super interesting theory, and I dig it because I would think that if they do have the ability to cloak, I mean, do I know it for a fact? No, but I've seen a lot of stuff that says, yeah, they probably can. But that would answer a whole lot of questions on why sightings are so limited. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and the as far as I know, the stick thing, I people have been reporting it, but I've only been hearing about it the last few years uh, about the sticks being stuck in the ground, and I've heard people attribute it to the younger ones. But what you say makes sense about you try to drive a stick into the ground, it's just going to snap. But if you
Yeah. Mhm.
gently work it and work it, it'll go and it won't. And the Earth does have a lot of energy.
Mhm.
Nature, the Earth. So I would think that that might be, a good source for them to draw from if that is what they're doing. So I
Well,
really I dig.
the water, everything around them, the wind, the water, everything has energy in it, and being here on a river that comes off of Mount Rainier and it's full of silt. All of that silt it's so fine, but it's rubbing against each other. Although all those particles are creating friction in the water that is energy that can be absorbed and used. And I personally think that's why there is so much UFO activity around the volcanoes. And I think it's the glacier water, and even streams and creeks. Anywhere that there's running water is where you find the paranormal aspects
Yeah,
of nature.
yeah, yeah.
I
You're
think
right.
it's the flow, it's the movement that they tap into. Yeah.
So you mentioned UFOs, and I got to ask: do you think there is any connection between Sasquatch and UFOs?
I think there is. Yeah. Whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. But where you're going to find one, you're going to find the other.
That is
So
true.
yeah. Hmm.
That's true. I won't dive too deep into that. I was just curious what your thoughts were. Um,
Yeah.
so have you ever? I know you've seen Sasquatch in the flesh. What would you say was your best or most memorable sighting? One that just really sticks with you?
Oh wow.
I didn't mean to put you
When
on the
I was
spot.
I don't know, it's hard to choose. But
Yeah.
there's one in particular that I really love. When I went to a new place in the Blue Mountains a couple of years ago. Um, we go every year, but this was a new location I hadn't been to before. And I had driven all day, got there late, and set up camp. And the next morning, I was the first one up. And we were camped at the edge of a big meadow. And just on the inside part of the meadow, there was the vault toilet. So I went over to use the toilet. And at the end of the meadow, there's a little cluster of bushes. And in the middle of this cluster of bushes, there was this big burnt snag stump that looked just like a giant Sasquatch. And I stood there and I admired that burnt stump for the longest time, thinking that is so cool because it looked just like a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I admired it. I went in, I went tinkle. I came back out. I stood there and admired it for a couple more minutes. And then I went and started the coffee and got the fire going. And then I went to get my camera to take a picture of this amazing burnt stump. And it was gone.
Holy
So
cow.
yeah, that was pretty cool.
That is
Um,
pretty cool.
well, and then we did a recreation to, figure size. And he was 15 feet tall. To put
Wow.
somebody in bushes with a stick with a black hoodie over the end of it to represent the same size head that I saw in the same
Uh-huh.
position. He was 50 tall. So
So I've heard of people talk about Sasquatch that big. I've heard more than one person talk about it, and that to me that's mind blowing. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
yeah,
I'm just saying that's mind blowing because
yeah.
it's already hard to imagine some 8, 9, 10 foot tall. You add another 5 feet onto that, and I'm sorry, but that's a change your underwear moment for me.
It
So
wasn't scary to happen, but then I was also still thinking it was a stump or a burnt snag.
yeah,
And well, when I got to looking around, there was not a single burnt stump or snag anywhere in the meadow. There'd never been a fire through there. But when we did the recreation, we started, I think, using a rake. And the guy in the bushes held the rake up and he couldn't clear the top of the bushes with that. So we had to progressively find sticks long enough.
holy
And then when
cow,
we finally got it, when he comes out of the woods with that stick and you stand there and you look at him holding it and you truly grasp how tall that is,
yeah,
it
yeah,
really takes thinking in. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
lot.
That
Yeah.
that that would be a lot. So have you ever had an experience that scared you? Like I don't want to be here because you seem like you're pretty calm, cool, and collected through most everything you do. But has there been a
Uh,
time when you just like, uh-uh?
well, I came close to it once. One of my earlier experiences, I've spent my entire adult life in the forest. And so I've kind of under the impression that if they were going to get me, it would have happened a long time ago.
Yeah,
And they've never given me a reason to be afraid. But in the beginning, after I first saw the big guy following the elk and I became fully aware that they were out there, I decided I was going to go out in the middle of the night and record some vocalizations. So I went up the trail. Well, the first night just bushwhacked it out into the woods and I propped my recorder up in a tree and I knocked on some sticks and I heard this big long moan come from around the other side of the hill. And I'm thinking, I've got it. And I went to grab my camera and it had fallen. So when I went back and listened, when I heard the big long moan was exactly when the camera fell, and all you can hear is the rattling, clattering of the camera falling.
yeah,
So then the next night, I went up the trail and I was going to be very careful this time. I etched out a little notch in the snow on a log and put the camera in there and turned on record. And I whacked a tree, and the tree, it was a frozen cottonwood, so it didn't just knock, it like rang up through the tree and out into the forest like a bell. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then within a minute, on behind me on the right side, I could hear something coming. And a few seconds later, ahead of me on the left side or the right side of the trail, I could hear something coming. But then on the right side of the trail, or the left side of the trail, on the other side of the creek, I could hear like this freight train coming, and I could hear trees crashing, and it was a lot. So
Yeah.
whatever was on this side of the trail, up and down, weren't nearly as big and loud, and I was fine with keeping my back to them. And whatever was coming down the other side got across the creek from me, and I could hear it there. I couldn't see anything, but it was big and it didn't sound friendly. And my heart was up in my throat, and I was thinking to myself, Barb, what have you done? And I didn't know enough to even talk to him at that point. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I whacked on the tree again. That just stirred him up even more, but he kept his
Oh,
distance. I never came closer. And so I decided, well, I probably just got to go back to the cabin. So I collected my camera and I went back, and I went back out later the next day, and I found where his tracks, they were the 12-inch footprints had come down in the snow down the far side of the creek. And where he had stopped, where he was watching me, there was a patch of yellow snow that was about 6 feet across
holy
with a big
cow.
brown pin. So he had peed there. And then his track followed. And also you could see where he had walked between trees and just pushed small trees over on his way down. So he was upset with me when he was coming. I don't know what signal I put out, but it was a lot. And then
Oh my
he had
goodness.
followed me back to the cabin after that. And I
Oh,
decided I was never going to knock on trees again.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
'Cause
didn't
we,
for about a year. I didn't. And then one night I went back up and I decided, what the heck? I whacked on a tree, and it wasn't frozen, so it didn't really echo like the first one had before. And I just sat there in the dark for half an hour and nothing happened. And then the next morning I went up, and the tree I had knocked on had been pushed down over the trail. So the last
you
time.
signed, sealed, delivered. You got your message, huh?
Yeah, just don't
So,
do that.
and yeah, I know. I, when I knew there was one there before, I did a tree knock, and it was just surely like panic because I was trying to do something, and it wasn't like I was trying to like say hi to them. I was trying to do something that would get them to go away from me, but
Oh, okay.
that probably wasn't the right thing to do.
No.
And you're talking about the large area where it had urinated. Um, but the stories I've heard about when people have actually seen them urinate, they're usually either very well. Actually, they're always pissed off in the situation that they're in. So you got the pee and you got the trees pushed over. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
apparently
And
they weren't too happy.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know what kind of an alarm I put out, but he came running, and I don't think it was me he was expecting to find there.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah, that might have been the reason he was upset then. So,
Yeah.
um, so do you ever get mind speak from them? Because I know people are talking about. I mean, and well-known people talk about mind speak, like they'll put the thoughts into their mind. Have you ever experienced that? Is that how you
Yeah.
communicate?
Um, I usually they give me like a vision, like a picture of something in my mind. They sent me to a particular spot downriver. I was a little confused about that. I had been asking to have some of my empty peanut butter jars returned from my gifting area. Most of the time they were there, but sometimes they were just gone, and it bothered
Hmm.
me that I wasn't getting back. So I was walking up the trail one day, and I just kind of half jokingly hollered out that it sure would be nice if I could get some of these jars back. And then the next day, I had finished whatever chores I was doing, and I was going to take Gabby for a walk up the trail. And as I was crossing the road to the trailhead, I had a flash in my mind of a spot downriver 3 times I saw it flash, and I thought, I've heard of this. Let's go with it. So instead of going up the trail, I went on down river to this place where I used to go in, and it was a good place to get into the river to look for rocks. And I got there, and the trail ended there, and the river was too high to go out on the riverbed. And I was just a little bit annoyed with myself that here I am at this spot where there's no reason for me to be here. So
Yeah.
I decided, instead of going back up the trail the way I was going to originally go, I was just going to cut back into the trees and just bushwhack it back into the area where I had originally intended to go. So I did. I turned and I took maybe 20 steps back into the trees, and there was a good sized tree, about so big that had been pushed. So it was tipped. So the tree's like this and the roots are sticking up. And in that little notch right there, there's an empty peanut butter jar. And it's like, okay. And this is probably a good 400 yards from the nearest gifting area. So yeah, they sent me there for a reason. That was
That's
intentional.
cool. So when you
Yeah.
hollered out to him, you hollered out in your voice. You didn't just think it in your head.
Yeah. Sometimes
But
I things go on in my head, and there'll be like a wood knock or a whistle or something to acknowledge that, oh, you heard that. So,
yeah.
but that a lot of times I I don't know that all of them can hear what's going on in my head. So I
Uh-huh.
like to say things too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had something oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. Uh I'm gonna bring up portals to you. So
Okay.
do you think that they have the ability to use portals, or do you think that when people think they're using portals, they're actually cloaking?
I think that it's a combination of all that. They definitely can cloak and still be there, and they definitely can just step into another place and be gone. Um, I had an experience a few years ago where I went into my tent and I got in my cot, and I turned the light off. And as soon as I did, this huge, brilliant white light lit up the front of my tent. I mean, incredibly brilliant. Like, it was almost like the tent wall wasn't even there. And immediately, an upright individual runs up and is in front of my tent, perfectly backlit by this light. And then the light shifted up into the trees. The individual ran off, and I've got like this shadow like this. And I'm thinking, hand? Nope, nope. That was the limbs of the trees, because the light had gone up into the trees, is now shining down through the limbs. Okay, that's a limb. So then the light shifts down again, and it comes down, and it's just this tiny little, very dim light in the corner of my tent. And in the air above me, in the middle of my tent, a portal opens and closes
Oh
to
wow.
about 3 feet wide and 2 feet high. And it just closed, just like that. And it just gave me a view into just somebody's living room, where it was a crappy old brick fireplace with 2 brown couches on either side. And I don't know if it was a different time or what it was, because it didn't look like a modern living room. There was no regular normal stuff. It was just the 2 brown couches and a crappy brick fireplace, and the only light seemed to be coming from the fire.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, so I think
And-
that's something that they can just do that. I've wondered, okay, well, maybe that individual that ran up knew a portal was going to open, and he was running for the portal, and dang, my tent was in the
oh,
way.
yeah. That
Yeah,
could be.
I, I've speculated on all the different possibilities, and all I can really say is I think that it happened on purpose, just because they were showing me they could. And yeah, it was all part of one big event.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I've not talked to anybody yet that's actually seen a portal. I don't know
Yeah,
what I
it
would do. So when you saw it, were you tempted to like do anything, or were you just like, what the heck?
well, I'm already having one of those moments, because of the light and the
Yeah.
individual that ran. I was already in observation mode, and when it happened so fast that I didn't really have time to react other than just observe.
I
If it
got you.
had paused open for a few minutes, I might have been tempted to, like
Stick your hand
maybe touch
through?
it.
Yeah, I don't
I would
know.
be, but yeah, I'm just glad that it opened and closed and was gone.
Yeah, that way you didn't have to make a decision, huh? Because that's
Yeah,
what that's
yeah.
that's I yeah, but oh man, if that would have happened to me, I don't know what I'd have done. I mean, I really don't because I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know what I've done. So, and now we're gonna get to. So I love talking about orbs. I've actually seen an orb, just one. You know, wasn't anything like super fantastic. It actually, whoops. Hold on, I'll give her a minute. I lost her for a second. She's trying to get back on.
Oh yeah. There I go.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Right.
Yeah, she went to. Oh, there she goes. There she is.
There you are.
There you are. If
Sorry
I
about that.
if I knew you didn't want to talk about orbs, I wouldn't have brought it up.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just trying to plug it
No,
in
no,
here.
it's
I didn't
okay.
want to lose the signal, and then I lost the signal. So,
It's okay. It's okay. Trust me, that's not the first time it's happened. But you came
okay.
right back, so that's awesome. So
Cool,
where
cool.
we were was, like I was saying, I've seen one orb. It scared me more than anything because I saw it before I'd ever heard about orbs or what the heck they are or anything like that. Um, but I've talked to Tom Cantrell, and I think it was you. He said have some interesting theories on orbs and Bigfoot. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen your fair share of orbs in the woods.
Yeah, before I knew the Sasquatch were here, my phone is not charging.
Oh
I'm afraid
no.
it's gonna die. Okay, well, um, before I knew the Sasquatch were out there, I was seeing a lot of different things in the woods that I was just chalked up to ghost stuff. I
Yeah.
was I remember one night going out and just seeing little yellow dots of light just bouncing around through the grass on the edge of the road, and I thought those were like squirrel ghosts, things like that. But yeah, now that I've had more experience with it, I think the Sasquatch are definitely, they go hand in hand with the orbs. I have been told that they can become energy forms themselves and travel in orb shape. Um, I don't really know that for a fact. It's just what I've been told. But I know that where you find Sasquatch, you'll definitely have the orbs, and they can be big glowing balls. They can be dim. They can be a mist, a silvery mist. And then there's also there's like a different kind that is the fairies. they're solid. They're not
Yeah.
balls of energy. These are living flesh and blood, solid creatures that the smallest I've seen is just like just tiny like this, and the
Uh-huh.
biggest I think was cantaloupe size. I had one flew right over my shoulder, and the
Oh, wow.
recorder even picked up the whoosh of it going by.
Oh,
So that it
wow.
was definitely solid. It was not an or an energy body.
So,
So
do you think that sometimes and fairies fascinate me. I kind of tend to think that they're actually out there. I've seen some pretty
yeah.
cool pictures and stuff about them. Do you think that fairies and Bigfoot interact at all?
um, they're in the same places, and I can only speculate on what their interaction is, but they have a lot of the same kinds of abilities, and they're part of that whole other side of the veil thing. So I don't know how far their connection goes, how deep it is, but there's definitely something going on there. And
Yeah.
they also flagged my camera, so they also want to be
Oh.
seen.
So I'm going to step off of the Bigfoot subject just for a minute, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think about Dogman? Do you
My
believe in
personal opinion,
Dogman? Yeah.
I think they're just a slightly different version of Sasquatch. I think
Oh,
that they're just kind of the same thing with a different face. Um,
I've
yeah,
often
I
said
don't
that.
think that they're a whole lot different.
Okay. Yeah, I've kind of expressed my feelings the same way. I think, I mean, can I say for sure or not? No, because some of the people they really seem pretty convinced that that's what they saw. But a lot of times, I think there are different types of Sasquatch, and sometimes I think it's a case of misidentification, or a lot of times when you're scared out of your wits, you see something, you don't always get it exactly right because you're scared.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
You
I
see
think,
what you see.
yeah. So I think the chance for misidentification can happen. Can happen. So, do you still getting out in the woods and investigating
Oh yeah,
nowadays?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll be off. I'll be out camping all next week, and I just wrapped up a camp out a couple of weeks ago, and I have 3 more scheduled through October. So yeah, gonna be out lots of woods time, and I
Lots of
still go
wood.
up the trail behind the cabin on a regular basis, and things are still going on up there all the time. So yeah.
That's cool. So, when you go out, about what's your percentage that you actually get something?
Um, I would say there's rarely more than a month that goes by that I don't have some kind of a sign that the Sasquatch are around. They'll leave me a little gift on my porch, or there'll be a vocal, or something weird will happen in the woods. That's just around the cabin. On the campouts, I don't even think about it anymore. The activity usually starts while we're setting up camp. So,
Yeah.
and actually the activity starts at the cabin before we even set up camp, because they're already excited about it. So in the days ahead of a camp out, things really escalate around the cabin. So they know.
Yeah. So do you have any like around you or the places that you go that you identify them uh, as how do I want to put this? You know them as individuals.
Hmm.
Do you?
There's the one I think of as Mama Sasquatch. She always smells like flowers. There's one that I think of as the tree catcher, who he kind of has a like a sulfury kind of smell. And then there's some of the kids. There's a teenage female She's extremely thin. She's very tall, but she's like all legs. And
Huh.
she walks, it reminds me of like the John Cleese funny walk thing. When she walks, she's just like, oh. And then there's at least one little individual who's just a black blur when he runs around. So
Okay.
sometimes people get a view of him as he's going between trees, but for the most part, when I see him, he's just a black blur.
Yeah. So what would you say is the most common, like what are the hair colors that you've
Black,
seen?
black.
Always, is it always black?
No, the tree catcher has a little bit of a goldish, brownish tint. He's mostly black, but he's got like the highlights. And I think that's about it. I think there's another one around that might have a little more gold color, little brownish gold, but that could just be the tree catcher bigger. So
So why do you call him the tree catcher? There's got to be a story
because
behind it.
there is a year ago in June, a tree fell on my cabin, and it was about 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I woke up, I was already sitting up in my bed with my eyes open, looking at Goldie, and she's looking at me. And that's how I woke up. And the first thing in my head was a voice saying, "Don't try to run. You're just going to run under the tree. Just stay put." And then the tree fell.
Oh
And this
wow.
tree, I mean, my cabin is 100-year-old shack with no foundation, and it
Yeah,
did no damage. I mean, it didn't even shift a shingle out of place. So
that's
yeah, they
crazy.
protect that. Yeah. And then
So
about a 3 months later, I was in the yard with some friends visiting and talking about it. And when I talked about my gratitude over being saved the way I was, the yard filled up with the sulfur smell. And the next night, more friends came, and we were telling them about how I was grateful and how the sulfur smell had come when we talked about it, and the sulfur smell came back
ah,
again. And this time, it didn't just give give us the big smell. It went around our circle, and everybody got to have a whiff, their own personal whiff, except for one lady who also got the flowers. So I'm pretty sure Mama Sasquatch was there too. So
oh, that's
she was
cool.
a hi to her. Yeah, yeah,
Man, it's so cool to hear good good experiences. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that have bad experiences, and I don't know that that's necessarily the Sasquatch's fault. You know,
no,
I,
that's
I
adaptation, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, I try not to be too worried about Sasquatch. They seem to. So this is where I come from. I'm down here closer to the south, and they really seem to have an attitude down in the south, and they seem to be a lot more docile up in the north and on the Pacific coast. Do you have any thoughts about the different areas on? I don't know how much you get out of your area or how much you even investigate any other
yeah.
areas.
I can really only speak for here in Washington, but I would say that, just speculating, I would say that the experiences that they've had, with us, they've had the least amount of experiences with us in the Pacific Northwest as compared to the rest of the country. And there's a lot of places where people go into the woods and shoot first and ask questions later.
Yeah.
If there's a monster in the woods and they've been hunted as monsters, well, they're not going to be as friendly as they are. We got some flower children going out and leaving them feathers and things. So
You know
a
what?
little,
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because
yeah,
there've been other theories thrown around that maybe down here the population's not as big and maybe interbreeding causes them to be meaner or something like that. But I like your theory better because the people down here in the South do have a bad attitude, do carry big guns. So
yeah,
and And when I had my scary experience, I was hunting. And it seems like when you're hunting, that's generally when you're going to get an aggressive experience.
Well, so that you're armed and that's your mindset. You are out there with the intentions of killing something. So
yeah,
that's how they're gonna receive your energy is on the defense.
yeah. And I think they can tap into our minds without, well, kind of you told a couple of experiences where heck, you're telling about a story and all of a sudden they're there to say, hey, and do you ever feel like, you know what, stay out of my head for a minute? Or do you say,
Well, you know what? This last fall, I met this wonderful woman. She's a medicine woman who told me that the Sasquatch have bonded with me to the point where they now are watching through my eyes. So say hi.
hi. Hey, I'll be coming up to Oregon this summer. Come see me.
Awesome. Cool. Keep putting that out there. They will.
Yeah, I want them to. Yeah, I'd like to meet one with a little less attitude than what they have down here.
Well,
I mean,
just talk to them. Be nice and talk to them. You're surprised what it'll get you.
Yeah, actually, I've been trying that a lot more lately with the just putting my, let my mind go and you just trying to speak. Whether they're listening or not, I don't know, because my attitude has changed over the years. When we at the beginning, it was like you said, they're monsters out there. They're just out there to, tear things up, destroy things, kill things. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think they're more of, hey, this is my territory. If you do get an aggressive experience, I think that's them just defending themselves, their family, and their land. And you be nice, we'll be nice, because obviously the size and strength of these things and the mind abilities they might possibly have that we don't even know about, they could probably make quick work out of pretty much any person if they wanted to. But I think the fact is they're not.
You wouldn't even see them coming.
Yeah,
You'd be without it.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, I'll quit taking up your time, Barb. But before we get out of here, is there anything you would like to share, or is there anything you would like to promote? Is a better way of putting it.
Well, I have a book that's going to be coming out soon. The Unseen Audience, Walking Watch. Tom Cantrell is working on getting it published for me right now, so it should be available sometime next month.
Awesome. Yeah. I just did an interview with him last week. So
awesome.
Cool.
I a while ago earlier today. So
cool. Small world, isn't it?
It is.
So where do you know if people are going to be able to get that on Amazon, or is it going to be through Tom?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And what was the name of it again?
The Unseen Audience, Walking with Sasquatch.
The Unseen Audience, Walking with Sasquatch. Cool. I'll have to get that when it comes out. Okay, cool. Yeah, whenever you get that release date, send it to us and we'll put it up. I mean, might get you a couple more sales. So
cool.
No. Hey, thank you for coming on, Barb. I've been trying to get you on for a while, and I was dying to talk to you, and it was a lot of fun.
It was a great interview. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Barb. My audience is very grateful. I'm very grateful. And audience, go check her book out when it comes out. And in the interim, keep it creepy.
Yeah, out in the woods where the shadows creep, I'm trying to find the legend that the people keep. Bigfoot's the name, got a story to tell. Footprints in the mud, can't you hear the bell? Whispers in the night, can you feel that chill? Bigfoot on the run, he's a legend, keep it real. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride. Like I'm on a quest, searching for the homie, you know he's the best. Got my camera ready, heightened senses on blast. Snap a shot of Sasquatch, legend unsurpassed. Eyes in the dark, you can't catch what you can't see. King of the woods, living wild and free. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride.